Good morning. This video is about how to use filters to help clean out your Google Mail and also create clutter before it actually happens. So anytime you have a specific kind of message, either from a specific person or entity or having a specific title, you can create a filter that would either delete or whatever your messages as they come in. Now, of course, if you have things, so I have one of these kind of inboxes that has the different tabs, right? Primary, social, promotions, da 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 da. I get a lot of stuff under promotions that I really don't need. So, for example, let's say I'm really not interested in the LL Bean messages, which I shouldn't be. So I can click on this and I can obviously click spam. When I do that, sometimes it will say, do you want to report the spam and unsubscribe? And that should help you actually get out of your LL Bean subscription. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now that isn't technically a filter, but it is one way. And in this case, it actually took me to their website, so I can say unsubscribe. A lot depends on sort of the reputable ability, whatever the reputation, the the on the up and up, the honesty of the place that's doing this. All right, so let's say another one here. I've got Gallimard Jeunesse, which is a publisher from France, and at some point I must have been interested in some of the things that they had, but I'm not really that interested anymore. So I could either just spam them, and remember that if you spam something, it will go into your spam and it will stay there for 30 days and then it'll get automatically deleted. So never spam something where you think that you want to keep it and use it, because it will disappear relatively quickly. In this case, let's say though that I actually want to create a filter for this. So up here under my More option, I have a thing that says filter messages like this. By default, it's going to assume that my filter is going to be done based on the from address. That isn't always true, but it's usually a pretty good assumption. Notice that behind this, it's showing me that there are 3 of these messages that I currently have. Now, I've perhaps been being pretty good about deleting them as they come in, but why have to do that? All right, so if I just hit search, then all it will do is search those, and I could delete them, but it won't solve the problem in the future. So what I want to do is create a filter, and what I want to tell it to do is to skip the inbox and to delete the message. Actually, it didn't let me do that. Okay, so skip the inbox. If I choose to delete it, it won't need to skip the inbox. But you could, for example, notice all these different things. You could apply a label, meaning putting it into a folder, so to speak. You could forward it to someone else. You could make sure that it never goes to spam, sort of reverse psychology if it's really important. You could even send a template, which is a canned response, back to the person. All right, so I want to delete these though, because they're not important to me. And I also want to apply this filter to the 3 matching conversations. So what that does is checking that box means that it's going to do whatever the action is that I set up to the ones that already exist. And then because the filter exists, it's going to do that to messages in the future. So all my old messages from Gallimard Jeunesse and all my new future messages from Gallimard Jeunesse are just going to get trashed. And I'm going to click Create Filter. All right. There are a couple of other options in here. So for example, you can, if you're involved in a conversation, let's say under forums, which is where things like, from groups come to. So let's say this one, which is about the Waiku librarians. If all I wanted to do was to quiet that specific conversation, I can also go to an option called mute. Now, what that's going to do doesn't help me in terms of space on my account, but it means that anytime a new message comes in related to that specific title, which is incorrect link, it's just going to archive that message. I really won't see it. I won't listen to it. So, for example, let's say you belong to a listserv of some kind, and normally you're kind of interested in the ideas and things that they talk about, but in this case, no. You can mute the conversation. It won't even hit your inbox. You won't have to look at it and so on. But the messages will still exist. All right. Let me show you one more thing. I have in the past, for example, um, written a rule or a filter that would take stuff from lib license and throw it into this particular label. In this case, I am so done with these messages. I'm just going to go ahead and come up here and do this again more and filter messages like these. Anything from liblicense@gmail.com, I want to create a filter and I'm going to delete them automatically. And it says that I have 25 matching conversations from before, so I'm going to apply it to that and create a filter. Now you should see in a second that your lib license messages are going to go to trash, which they didn't, but that's okay. They should. If at this point I wanted to, I can obviously click this and delete them out of here so that now I don't have any. But in the future, they ought to automatically go to trash each time they come in. So that's what creating a filter does for you. You should use it with reckless abandon. Actually, let me show you another example of when to use that. So let me come here and say, because it isn't always by sender. So let me take a look in updates. And let's say, for example, I've got something that says this one, H Latam Daily Digest. I might not want all of the things from that particular sender to go to trash or for the same thing to happen to it. So I'm going to make sure that I grab this part, Control C to copy, right? And I'm going to say more filter messages like these. Again, it's going to assume that I want to do the from address, but in this case, I don't. I want the subject to be equal to that. Now I can create myself a filter for all the things that have that as the subject. There aren't very many, okay? But I can automatically delete them as they come in. And I apply that to my 2 previous conversations. I create the filter. And now when I get these things from this digest, they should automatically go to trash. So lots of different ways that you can use filters. If you have questions about it, there should be something out in the FAQ. If there isn't, give a shout to help@carthage.edu and we'd be more than happy to help you with those. Thank you. Bye.